following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
We are back, Bronx Roots, with Michael Preminger and David Hubler. David is tardy. I'm Ralph Tycho with the Comfortably Zoned Network, and I'm a half Bronxite, so I'm going to talk to Michael, who's here. Michael Preminger, happy Thanksgiving.
And same to you, Ralph, same to you.
Yeah, this has been a good venture. We're going into, I think it's our 8th month, if I'm not mistaken, doing this. And it's really a highlight of my week. I get to talk to people. I could say Hamisha, but it transcends just being Hamisha if you're from the Bronx. Because they're a big Catholic population, big Protestant population, a lot of blacks. It's a melting pot, like all of New York is. Did you find it to be? You found it to be that way growing up?
Yeah, there were not many blacks in my neighborhood at all. Actually,
but there certainly were in the South Bronx.
Yeah, but also when I went to high school at Clinton, there were many blacks, many.
Right.
So my immediate neighborhood and my public school was, like 99% Jewish or something.
Right.
But high school was totally different.
Yeah, but in high school you were prepared. They prepared you for the world, basically, because we ain't all Jewish.
No.
And it sometimes it's a rude awakening if you just grow up like you said, 99%. I lived in a co-op, 16 buildings, 66 families, all had 2 kids post-war, and 99% of those folks were Jewish.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Because
it was discrimination in reverse when the board of directors formed the co-op. They just made it pretty clear because don't get me wrong, people started when they sold their apartments. They oftentimes sold to people that weren't Jewish, especially towards the late 70s or the mid 70s and what have you, when people were getting old and selling off their co-ops.
Right.
But
where I was, it's funny. It made me think about it here that I lived on Gun Hill Road, and it was all buildings. But if you went off to the side, you went a half a block down from my building, and you made a right, and you walked along. I think it was Hull Avenue. It doesn't matter. Were homes. And I think most of the homes, the people, for whatever reason, I'm only guessing now, were not Jewish. And I never had a friend who lived in those homes. And like I say, it was like a half a block away. I was never in a house until I was at my aunt's mother's house in New Rochelle. I had never been in. All my friends lived in apartments.
Now, did they call houses private houses? Was that the expression?
Yeah, that's right. A private house. That's right.
Okay. Well, that was what they did in Queens. And, what are you going to get, a public house? I don't understand where that came from. But, he lives in a private house. Well, I'm glad he's got plenty of security.
That's right.
I grew up in an apartment. You grew up in an apartment. There are certain advantages both ways. as I've seen it. And certain advantages in life to owning your own place and not owning your own place. And it's about 50-50 the way I look at it. Unless you were blessed to have bought 30, 40 years ago and kept it.
I was going to say that. Yeah. And then you're
then
okay.
You're pretty, really.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's what happened with you, but
no, I'm in an apartment, and so I'm paying rent every month, which is not fun.
Right.
But it's the circumstances that I'm in. I had. Yeah.
Well, if you had your apartment in the Bronx with rent control, you'd be paying like $200 a month.
You're right. Exactly. I had an apartment in Manhattan for a while, like from 69 to 75, and it was something like $200 a month, maybe a little more when I finally left, but it's probably 2,000 now.
Tell me about. No, go ahead.
Oh, it was a walk-up. It was 4th floor, 1-bedroom walk-up. But if I had to do that today, walk up the stairs every day, I would not be very happy.
No.
But back then, I could do it.
Yeah. I want to ask you, because the Air Force got me to California. It was kind of involuntary. Turned out to be great for me in many ways. Yours was voluntary, and we talked about the decision a little bit to finally go out to California. How harrowing was that for you?
I must admit, not much.
Okay.
I had been out here a few times to do the Tonight Show. That was the first times I had ever been in California.
Right.
And I would stay for a week or so and then go back. And then in I guess it was 74, I met the girl who was to be my wife. But I went back and my friends, like Steve Landesberg especially, and I think Richard Lewis had moved out here by then, and Brenner stayed in New York. But it seemed like Los Angeles was, the place to go to try and get on TV or in a series.
Right.
And
did you never did get into a series, did you?
It's funny you asked that. I did, because somebody mentioned Karen Valentine. Yes.
Oh, I remember her. She was from Petaluma, California, as a matter of fact.
Hey.
Right up room 221 or something like that.
222, wasn't it?
Oh, I think it was 22195.
There you go.
It was marked down in Sweeps Week.
Okay.
But she lived in a little town up north of San Francisco called Petaluma, and it's basically chickens up there. That's chicken farms. And she was quite attractive, if I remember correctly.
I agree. She was. The word that was used yesterday was perky.
Yes.
She was very perky. But I agree. I thought she was very attractive and perky.
Yes.
So I that's one of the reasons that I did move out here. And I was sitting in my agent at the time said, "Have you ever read for any TV shows?" And I said, "No." So they sent me up to read for a sitcom, and that was going to go on the air. It was guaranteed 13 weeks on the air, and it was starring Karen Valentine.
Whoa! And it wasn't a pilot or anything. It was just right into.
Yeah, just right in, because the people who were doing it were the people who produced and directed MASH.
Oh, wow.
Gelbart and
Gelbart, right.
And Gene Reynolds and another guy. And so they had a guarantee.
Right.
They were hot and big. And
oh, yeah.
so I was told, they said, "Oh, where do you live?" I said, I think I said New York. They said, "Well, stay in town," which I think a lot of people hear that will be in touch.
Right.
Or no, they didn't just say that. They said stay in town.
Stay in town
then I went
is
back,
a good indicator.
Yeah, then I went back to read for the first guy and another guy. Then I was called back to read for the first two guys plus Larry Gelbart.
Ooh.
And I got the part.
Wow.
And I was even thinking, well, what's so hard about Hollywood? People say it takes so long. I said, this is the first time I ever went up for anything, and I'm on the air.
Wow.
So, and I was telling the people yesterday, I was given a parking spot at the Fox Studios, and which was great, but I didn't have a car. So what I actually did a few times is, when I got to the studio, one of the other cast members I got a ride from one of the cast members. I actually sat in my parking spot at the studio.
Literally.
I really did.
With a chair. Your little armchair?
Not even that.
Chair?
I just sat down. I just sat down. I said, "This is my spot. I'm sitting here. This is mine. I'm excited."
Right.
Yeah.
What was the name of the show? What was the name of the show?
I think, I'm not being a wise guy, I think it was called, you ready? Big Time, Karen. I think. It didn't last. It didn't last. What happened was, shows you how things you can't be too secure out here. I went with then my girlfriend, who was to be my wife. I said, it was, I had filmed the scenes I was supposed to film for the second episode. So we went to Vegas. And at one time she said, "Did you tell the people you were going?" I said, "No, I finished the scene." She said, "You better check your answering service just in case." And sure enough, there was a call from one of the producers, and I thought, "Oh Jesus, I'm in trouble." So I called, and it was the guy's home, and his wife said, "Oh, Bert's been trying to reach you." And I figured, oh boy, they're going to yell at me or something. So the guy got on and he said, "We're changing a lot of the cast, and we're sorry to say we're letting you go." I went, "Hello?" So this was after just two episodes, and they reshot the scenes that I had been in. I don't even know if it ever aired. It might have aired, but so I went from here I am on a TV series to not.
Right. Well, at least you didn't have to sell your car.
Oh, that's funny. That's great. That's great.
Do you know what pride I take in making you laugh? just see. I mean, I don't put it in the newspaper or anything.
No,
but,
don't.
Because honestly, you make me. We played those Carson clips and what have you. You're just a funny guy. You just were.
Oh, thank
you weren't outrageous like Robin Williams, but you had a theater, a stage, if you will. So if I could make you laugh,
I appreciate that a lot.
Once a week, that's my goal. We talked about some of the comedians that you were really friendly with. Tell me some stories. I'm going to throw some names that were obviously New York comedians back in the day. If you have any memories of, say, Jackie Vernon, guy that I really liked. Did you meet him at all, or?
I never met him. I thought he really made me laugh. I loved his,
the clicker bit.
Oh, on his vacation.
Right. Pictures.
Oh boy, was that funny.
A very dry guy. Okay.
That's the
I'll
word.
throw another name at you. Jack Leonard. Fat Jack Leonard.
These were, they were
before your
generation or two before me.
Okay. Then let's talk David Brenner, because I think he was in Philadelphia. Am I correct?
Yes.
Not in New.
Yes.
Okay. And we touched on this once. He gave up the major part of his career, or a major part, a prime, like Ted Williams went into the Army and twice or whatever, the Marines. But he raised his kid. He had a tumultuous situation and ended up raising his kid. Am I correct?
The tumultuous situation is exactly right. And as far as raising the kid, he went through it was a horrible divorce, a custody battle. His first son, he has 3 sons, and the first one came from a one-night stand. And, or not a stand, they weren't. If they had just been standing, it would have been better.
They might have been standing. They could have been ahead of their time in terms of experimentation. But another story.
but he it was terrible, and for a long while he couldn't travel. The court said he had to stay in New York. I forget all the details, but it was. So I don't think he had the kid for a while, and she had the kid. I don't remember now the details, but I don't think he raised it. Certainly not by himself. So it might have been that they both had custody, and it turned out badly, and then he had 2 kids with his second wife. Or actually his third wife. He had been married when he was about 19 or 20, but never talked about that. And then it turned, and he had 2 kids, and everything seemed to be fine. And then that one ended. So it was. It was not
talking to a guy when that stuff like that happens. Looking back in my life. And it's not a right or wrong. 2 people aren't always compatible. And,
right. Yeah. Like I said,
now they've even renamed it. It's not in California. It's not divorce. It's disillusionment or another name for it. Whatever it is. it just takes some of the blame off both people. So, whatever.
Anyway, he was a dear friend, and was always, if I needed something or advice or something, as a matter of fact, one of the most fun times I ever had in my life was shortly, about a year after he and I met. I forgot who first said it. I said, let's write a script together. And I had never written a script, and neither had David. And we wrote this script, and we would just get together, and I would take notes or whatever, and then I'd go home to my apartment and type it. And I think we did it in 4 days. And I still think it's one of the funniest things. It was one of the great times, and we did things that when Mel Brooks, there's one thing that we did, that when Mel Brooks did a similar thing, it was like a genius, and to this day, I go, wait a minute, I did that. Remember in Blazing Saddles, you see the band coming,
right.
The band's on the screen. So we had the same thing. This was before Blazing Saddles. You see an airport, and you see a bunch of guys carrying instruments onto the plane, and somebody says, where are you going? And they say, well, we play the music for the movie, so we have to go where the movie is going. It's just, and we got to be there. We also had...
That's a great line. That's like the third wall, or...
Yeah, or the fourth wall.
Fourth wall, right.
Yeah.
You broke
that's
down the
what we
fourth
did.
wall.
Oh, the wall. But then the one other thing that even Mel Brooks has never done. And now this means nothing.
No, it means something.
It means we had a scene where his actor playing a general, and he keeps a Spanish general, and his lines were like "see, see, see," and at one point he looks at the camera or at somebody else in the scene. He says, "Is that all I have to say? Is this one word?" And they go, "Yeah." He goes, "I quit." They say, "What are you talking about?" So the next time we see that character in the movie, it's played by a different actor.
Well,
no one's ever done.
That's very funny.
No one's ever done that. Talk about a fourth wall. So David and I, we had so much fun writing that, and then within, I don't know, weeks or months after that, we had one director that David knew out here in Los Angeles who called up. I still remember this. I was at my parents' apartment. They get a call from this director. He says,
"It's not like they lived in a private house or anything."
Here we go. And the guy says, "We're going to make this movie. This is one of the funniest things I've ever read, or the funniest thing I ever read." And I remember being on the phone with him for 45 minutes, and I was just so thrilled. Never heard from him again.
Oh, really?
And David, within weeks, was on his way to being a major star, and nothing ever happened, which is too bad, because I still think it's a funny script. But again, we wrote it in just a few days. And he always remained... he was always a good friend, a very good friend. And I was very disappointed. This sounds ridiculous, but his memorial was really nothing. It was in a restaurant, but there was 2 floors to the restaurant, and there was not a lot of people, and his ex-wife, Anyway, it was. He deserved a lot more.
Yeah.
then he was really sick. Anyway, and then
and Steve Landesberg passed away as well.
Steve passed away before David. Steve passed away. Next month will be 8 years. And we were
the same kind of dry humor as you and David. Barney Miller. He just lit up Barney Miller. He was the best character on there by far.
He was great. He was great.
He really was great, and he just seemed like a real nice guy. That's
he was. That's the word. He was just. I was going to say a sweetheart. He was just so nice, and we got along. David didn't live out here, but Steve did, and I mean, I consider him my best friend. I mean, we saw
belatedly, Michael. I'm so sorry for your loss.
Oh well, thank you. Yeah, it was. We'd get together for a lot, and I'm still friends. Or his wife and I still. She moved back to Atlanta, which is where they met, because she was working in advertising. But
now this is Landesberg's wife.
Yeah,
not David. You mentioned David Brenner's ex-wife was at that memorial.
Yeah, the wife of his second and third son.
Oh, not the first wife.
Oh no! Oh God!
No. Oh, I was going to say that would have been a little strange.
I don't. No.
Yeah.
But Stephen, and sounds like I'm dropping names. I'm not.
I want you to drop names. The three of the most influential comics of our time, Brenner, Landesberg, because I think there's a special skill to playing in a sitcom, because you got to keep coming back. You got to. It isn't just like an appearance type thing. And like I say, Barney Miller, the show itself was iconic. And
I agree.
He was is a great cast. Fish, who I can't watch an old Godfather movie without thinking of Barney Miller. Right. So he comes up. He basically, you wouldn't have known him from. He played a gangster on this one, but he played a cop on the other one. He was the same Fish. There was no acting there.
You're right. Because when you see him, you just said it, when you see him in The Godfather, which, for whatever reason, in The Godfather, he seemed taller than almost everybody else. Did that ever strike you? I'm watching it, and certainly taller than Pacino. That was
right.
Godfather 1, yeah. He just seemed taller. Then as Fish, he was this kind of, what's the word?
We saw him sitting down a lot. I mean, they all just sat around, and but that was a great show.
Steve got the part, or got on as a regular, because the network gave Vagoda, Fish, his own show.
Oh.
Do you remember that at all?
No, I don't. An offshoot. Was it an offshoot?
Yeah, it was a spin-off where they did one show. It certainly didn't last. If they did more than one, I'm surprised, but where you see Fish's wife, and matter of fact, Steve was a guest performer on that show, and he had been on Barney Miller as a priest in one of the early years. But and that's where I guess Danny Arnold saw him on TV. Anyway, because Fish got his own show, Steve's character was moved in, and
so he replaced Fish in the squad room.
Yeah, exactly.
Did Fish come back after his show? When well, that was it.
No,
I guess.
No.
Okay.
No. Other guy on the show that I knew who was just the nicest guy, I mean, just so nice, was Ron Carey.
Ah, right. I remember him. He's very, he in and out. He yeah. Right? He just make that flash appearance and roll his eyes.
But what a nice man. As a matter of fact, when I was a page at NBC, I used to go have lunch there was not a drugstore, it was a restaurant down in the lobby, a coffee shop.
Right.
And the waitress, whose name was Marie, she had orange hair. No, that was Gertrude. It was one lady. Oh, I could talk about this There's a lady named Gertrude who was in charge of the coffee and Danish and donuts. So she wasn't a waitress with the tables. But one time I remember I stopped for coffee. I said, "How are you?" Or I didn't say anything. She goes, "My parakeet died." I said, "Oh." She said, and she was like, for the next 10 minutes, I couldn't get out of there. She was, "I'm alone now. I don't have anyone. My life was my parakeet. Would you like sugar with that?" Yes. And he died. She just kept going.
And you try to look at each other and not break up.
Yeah, but it was funny, but also very sad. It was one of those moments where she wasn't kidding. Her parakeet had died, and this was, and she had orange hair, I remember. But the other waitress was named Marie, and I mentioned to her, one day I'm interested in comedy. I hadn't done anything at that point. And she said, "Oh, there's a comic who comes here a lot, Ron Carey." So
that's how you met.
So we met, and then when I went to Korea, I wrote him letters, and he wrote back. But my baggage was stolen on the way back from Korea, so I lost everything I had then, including the letters. And he did an album that was a wonderful album, but I don't know where you could find it, where he plays a priest, but a priest who runs his church the way, he's training other priests, other young guys to be priests, and it's just very funny. He was on my Douglas used to use him a lot because he was a great ad-libber. Ad-libber?
Okay, I'm going to ask you a question. Did Richard Lewis know Gertrude? And there's a real pertinent question to that. On Larry David.
Did Richard know Gertie, the lady with the parakeet?
Right.
I don't know.
Well,
I don't
if
think so.
there's a Larry David episode with Richard Lewis, and Richard Lewis's parakeet dies.
Oh.
And Larry is sends him a sarcastic text. Well, I'm sorry to hear about your parakeet, but the good news is I'm still alive. And Richard Lewis, who really loved that parakeet, much in the character, of course, much in the same way that you described Gertie, loving her parakeet. I wonder if that was in some way inspired by the Gertie story.
I would like to think so, but I really doubt it. I mean, Richard, because Richard certainly was never a Page, nor was Larry David at NBC, and I don't.
Well, maybe you told him the story about the parakeet.
Oh, maybe I did. I don't think no, I never did. But but Richard is. I was going to say I've been very lucky. I consider myself lucky because almost all my friends, certainly, I was going to say adult friends, but after college, have been almost all have been comedians or comedy writers.
Right.
And that's a nice group of people to know.
No question.
To consider.
To be a comedian, you have to be a sociologist. And you have to think funny. So you're always an interesting conversationalist, and you definitely.
Yeah, you just hit on something that's very interesting. If I could mention it, the other day when I was at Thanksgiving, the people I was with, there was some other people besides my daughter-in-law and her parents. And when I've been at other occasions, I hardly talk. As a matter of fact, at one point Thursday, 3 of the people at the Thanksgiving table, I'm not kidding, were on their cell phones. Nobody was talking. And I'm not a talker. I just, in social situations, my daughter even said to me yesterday, this is why it's interesting that you bring it up. She said, Daddy, why don't you ever talk? You can talk in front of an audience. I told her, I didn't say to her yesterday, which is, I have nothing to say.
Well, obviously, that's not so.
But you would sometimes, I will say, you would say, as a matter of fact, I heard the guy mumble, one of the guys, as he was looking at his cell phone, he went, "This is very boring." But I'm usually
not.
That
you don't have anything to say. You don't have anything to say to boring people. Maybe
that's true too. That's true too.
Because you certainly have no trouble expressing yourself on a podcast, for instance.
Oh no, this I can do, and plus you're interesting. You're right. We have things in common, and you ask me questions. But like the other, I don't know. I don't want to make this a therapy session. Often I just
some people you hit it off with, some people you don't.
Yeah.
And, that's just the way it goes.
Yeah.
And
but Richard,
I'm glad you enjoy this, Michael. Because
I like you. I look forward to this a lot.
Great. I'm also at this moment worried about David.
Yeah.
Just like the day you missed one, and we worried about you.
So, I overslept that day. But I wonder
the same thing with him, but still concerned, if not worried. So as we close this, let's put out a shout-out to David. He's got to be one of your oldest friends. Not
absolutely. I would. If
longevity.
Yeah, oldest friend.
Yeah,
Without
right.
doubt.
Oh, the oldest. For you.
Yeah,
wow.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely. I think I told you, except for this girl in the 4th grade, but she's not a friend, the one who remembered I called her my sweet patootie, and she wrote me a letter.
Whoa.
Yeah.
When she saw you perform.
Well, this was a few years ago. It wasn't when she saw me perform. I don't even know what made her call me even.
View or call you, yeah. That's nice. That's very nice.
From the 4th grade, but I haven't heard from her. Just the fact that I called her my sweet patootie, and I don't know what that means. And I was 9 years old, but I think she moved on from
you.
there.
Made quite an impression.
Yeah, I did.
And at any age, she's probably in her, I don't know, she's old.
Mid-70s.
Right, and to remember you from 60-plus years ago.
Yeah, right.
Definitely a feather in your hat.
In my hat. She sent me a picture. She looks different.
Yeah. You would expect that.
Yeah, I guess it happens. Too bad.
All right, Michael. This was fun. And
it was.
Same time next week, same bat station, as Al Blumpkin says on this network.
Okay.
And we'll catch up with David then also.
Yeah.
Stay healthy.
You too.
All right, my friend. Be well. Thank you, everybody, for listening. This was a good one. This was fun. They all are, but I really enjoyed it. See you soon, my friend. Adios, and thank you for listening. Thank you for being here, Michael. Michael Preminger. The show is Bronx Roots. The network is the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. You can find us on the internet, comfortablyzonedradio.com. All one word, comfortablyzonedradio.com. Adios, shalom, see you soon. The proceeding was a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production. Thank you for listening.